The Mario series has some pretty good games. If you're watching this video, you'll probably have a couple games that you love. But what's the worst one? Lost Levels easily. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but like, come on. But what's second or third place? And are there any games that are generally considered bad that are actually good? That's what we're discussing today. Let's jump right into the competition. I spoiled this in the intro, so I'll go over it first. I feel like the issues are pretty apparent, but I'll go over them anyway. Invisible blocks are cryptic and are just trial and error. Something being an invisible block puzzle isn't always obvious, so it's completely possible you jump and die through no fault of your own. Warp zones send you back. Repeating progress is just insanely tedious. Maze levels return and are even worse. Again, very tedious and just insanely unfun. It makes sense to repeat progress when you die to make sure you've mastered the level, but repeating levels for doing nothing wrong is really annoying. There are a fuck ton of blind jumps. Maybe this was in a couple levels of the first game, but it's truly awful here. The screen scrolling forces you to die sometimes, which is just bullshit. These are all examples of textbook awful game design. I actually never considered this before writing, but rewind and save states must have heavily tainted people's perception of this game. Because the big argument of why this isn't the worst is that it's funny. Okay, first that can apply to literally any aspect of anything bad. There's a reason those shitty streamer rage games are so popular. Imagine if at the end of Persona 5 there was a 50-50 chance that the game would delete your save file after getting to the boss. Yeah, it'd be funny, you'd get a funny clip out of it, but it isn't a good mechanic. The second thing is that yeah, if you explore and find a warp zone and it turns out to send you back 3 worlds, I guess you could find that funny, but that's probably only because you're using rewind. If you actually had to repeat the whole level basically because the game felt like it, I doubt most people would find that very fun. By the way, I agree dickish game design can be funny. Pikmin 2 is very cruel, but the difference is it's fair. When they drop a bomb on you and say fuck you, deal with it, you have like 8 seconds to react, which is more than enough while still being tense. Lost Levels is just annoying. A lot of the game just wastes your time for no reason. All of these archetypes are universally shit on in Mario Maker, so I don't know why we give Lost Levels a pass. And it's not like there are other good aspects of this game. It's effectively a ROM hack that just makes the game worse. All the levels that aren't stupid are just forgettable. I guess some of the levels are slightly harder, but again, they're forgettable, so it isn't that big of a positive. Worlds A through D aren't especially bad in context of this game. Having extra worlds is the only improvement they made from SMB1. But it's Lost Levels, so it's still bad. And in the original version, you had to beat the game 8 times to unlock it. Thankfully, this isn't the case in the All-Stars version. The All-Stars version also effectively removed game overs. Remember those moments where you got punished for exploring or things that are not your fault at all? In the original version, that could cause you to get a game over, which means repeating even more progress. Oh, but we can't forget about such fun mechanics as wind and poison mushrooms. The only actual positives are that the controls are good. I mean, they're copied from another game, but they are good. And the big springs are fun, even if one of them is a dumbass backwards warp zone. I'll give it a 2 out of 10 and put it in F tier. Technically, this is my least favorite game of all time, but I don't really hate it the way most people hate their least favorite games. I need to play more bad games. I played this game 3 times because my footage kept lagging, so I'm very qualified to talk about this. Mario Land isn't a great game. The physics aren't amazing. You fall like a brick and Mario's a bit stiffer than usual, but it's completely playable. The other big downside is that it's a 30-minute game. It doesn't have that much content. However, the game has some strengths. The main one is that it's pretty creative. You're in a completely new environment with completely new enemies. You go through ancient ruins with Moais, what I believe is an ancient Asian-inspired area, judging by these enemies and the music, and a technological area. Even if some of these aren't as interesting as they could be due to graphical limitations, they feel like what they're trying to represent. The creative themes are something we didn't see as much during this time, and the game deserves props for that. And a big part of the Mario games is the creativity. The enemies are even reskinned to fit the area. Would it have been cool to get more unique enemies per area? Yeah. But the game's short enough to where you don't get bored of what's here. Plus you get some enemies that are exclusive to certain areas. They reuse this jumping one a lot. Other reoccurring enemies are bombshell Koopas. They're a cool spin on the typical Koopa. They make for some tense interactions with other enemies and hazards. It's a decent game. The bosses are pretty bad for the most part, but it's an early Mario game, so it's kind of expected. I've been praising this game a lot, but it's really short and the controls aren't the best. So I can only put it in C tier. This is the first spin-off of the list, and the first one that isn't actually bad or mid. I might do a full review of this game, so I'll keep my thoughts brief. This is different from TTYD and 64, and that's okay. People are so hyper-fixated on the battle system that whenever people mention the game is different, they assume they're talking about the battle system. The battle system was the appeal of TTYD and 64, but the modern games have a different focus. The exploration. That's why a lot of the game is the way it is. Like the sticker system. It rewards exploration. And I think it's fun if you look at it from that angle. People are so close to realizing this too. They talk about how you don't need to battle and how you can just skip them if you want. Almost like battles aren't the focus. I understand where these people are coming from. Here's an example. When Kirby and the Forgotten Land came out, I was incredibly disappointed. The copy abilities were so shallow and I found it really boring. But when I looked at it more from a 3D world perspective, I had fun with it. Looking at the game as its own thing rather than what you want it to be can help you enjoy it more. Not to say there aren't issues. It's weird that common enemies are turn-based because why would you even bother fighting them? It would have been better if enemy battles were like Super and the bosses were turn-based. And the locations are pretty bland. The windmill is cool, the rest are kind of boring. The writing isn't on par with some of the other games either. It's not bad, it's just not as good. You also need stickers for some bosses and they don't tell you that. The game makes some weird decisions. It's flawed, but it's a good game. B tier. Color Splash blows Sticker Star out of the water and that retroactively hurts this game. If you don't like the game or the direction it put the series in, that's fine. But I disagree that it's flat out bad. It's complicated. First, the later parts of the game suck. There are a good amount of dog shit horrible levels. Like this Pick-a-Pipe one that I fucking hate. There are like 50 vases and most of them waste your time. This great level after where you just wait. And Mort just sucks as a boss. Getting the vegetables and getting them in his mouth feels really inconsistent. A lot of the time vegetables spawn far away so you can't even get to him and you have to wait. It's a bad send-off to an okay game. Yes, this game is okay overall. It's a game you have to get used to though. You need to play it for a while to get the hang of the controls and mechanics. It will probably feel like ass at first, but it isn't. It has a lot of elements that just suck, but it's extremely unique and creative. It feels like an alternate universe version of Mario. It's still Mario, but it's different at the same time. The charge jump, the enemies, it's all so unique. I shit on the level design a bit, but that's mostly the last two worlds. It has a lot of cool shit before that. Like this level where you explore a castle. This one where they just drop bombs on you and you have to run. There are some cool levels before the last world that go underappreciated. Ending on a shit note probably lowered people's opinions, but as a whole package, it's decent. C tier. 64DS basically amplifies the strengths and weaknesses of 64, but unlike 64, this game is bad. 64 had some quirks, but I still consider it a great game, but it just doesn't work in 64DS. The controls are unplayably bad in most cases. Even on a 3DS, the controls are still horrible. I want you to look at this clip here and tell me the control hate is overblown. I'm obviously trying to wall jump, but for some reason the game decides to send me in a completely different direction, and because of the run button, I'm flinged off at 165 miles per hour. Oh yeah, the run button. First, it's extremely clunky. It's super uncomfortable to do anything while holding it, especially long jumping. And for some reason, there's a charge button. It's probably useful for challenge runs or speed runs, but all it does for regular gameplay is cause you to accidentally fling yourself off a platform. This is somewhat avoidable depending on the camera, but it shouldn't be a problem. It's wired into every platform player's brain to always hold run, so why punish people for that? At least this is one of the more avoidable problems. One of the worst parts is that it feels like there's built-in lag. You hold a direction and it takes a second for the character to actually move. I'm not playing this with the capture card or anything else that'd make it lag, this is just how it is. The physics are also completely fucked. I want to show you this clip. I jump a small amount and then flutter jump. And when flutter jumping you move as fast as Boss Tweed's corpse. But suddenly, despite the previous 2 jumps being incredibly slow, you suddenly become Usain Bolt and run off the edge even when you're holding the opposite direction. This is all without holding run, by the way. They even kept the weird control quirks of the original, which is just baffling. They kept the weird turnaround thing and ledges being weird and made everything worse. The turnaround thing would happen in Mario 64, but in DS I swear it's twice as common. On N64, these were smaller problems that only really impacted certain stages, because most courses were designed with them in mind. But on 64 DS, you can barely move. You feel completely out of control of your character. They tried fixing this with stylus controls, but I don't have to tell you that fixed nothing. And I'm mad they wasted a potential 64 remake on this. I think a 64 remake has the potential to be the best Mario game. Polish a few things up and rework Rainbow Ride and it's perfect. Even a remaster could bring it into S tier. But that isn't the reality we live in, unfortunately. At the same time, it did add a lot of cool shit. There are 30 more stars and 3 new characters. They added entirely new areas and boss fights, and that can't go underappreciated. I hope for Mario's 40th anniversary, we get this with full analog control at least. And this still has the DNA of 64. This game is simultaneously G tier and S tier. I think D tier is appropriate. I'll talk about these together. Donkey Kong and Mario Bros are both old arcade games with shitty controls. Donkey Kong is the more fun one, but the fall damage is pretty stupid. And the NES version cuts a level, which is, again, really stupid. But it's playable. Not much else to say. Mario Bros is worse. It's simpler. Hello, this is Editing Omeg. I'd like to say a few things, because my initial section on Mario Bros was really brief. The main thing is that you can't actually control your jumps. Like, there are 3 set jumps, a left jump, a right jump, and a standstill jump. You can't actually control where they go, and that makes it really, really clunky and just feel bad to control. You need to kill people. They're both D tier. This is the second spin-off of the list. By the way, I'm not going over all the bad spin-offs, just the ones I've played. I would normally play those to prepare, but dude, there are like 60 planned sports games. Anyway, Mario Run. A lot of people think this game is bad. I feel like we all just accept that it is without thinking about it. I had this in D tier for the longest time, but when I actually thought about it and played it, it's good enough. I mean, comparing it to most other Mario games, it doesn't stand a chance, but it's good. It works as intended and it's a fun time waster. It's satisfying to wall jump and all that. It's closer to the other auto-run mobile games than it is to a traditional Mario, but it's fun for what it is. It's like a 7, which puts it in B tier, below Sigger Star. Those were the worst Mario games, or at least the ones widely considered to be the worst. Was this video 0 out of 10 Dubai chocolate rage bait, or was I literally Gert? Let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Sorry this video is a little late and a little short. I was on vacation. If you couldn't tell, this is kind of similar to a hot takes video. It seemed fun and I think focusing on the negatives made it a little more interesting. I've been really into Pikmin recently, so expect some more Pikmin content. Doesn't mean I'm turning into a Pikmin channel though. If you have anything you'd like to see, I'd appreciate it if you left it in the comments. I have another idea for a mainline Mario video, but it requires a lot of preparation. That's about it. See ya.